that scripture really kind of spoke to me about, the chains that I was under, and the staying busy in the world, busy, bound under Satan's yoke. And so I just get started with it, man. I was born in '84, right here in Fresno, California. My mother is right here, and we grew up. I remember being a little poor, living in hotel rooms, trailer parks, living with different families and stuff like that. I met my dad when I was about 5 years old. He had just gotten out of prison. He was in the middle of trying to buy a house, and then they were like, "Hey, you got child support." So that's how I got into his life. He was a hardworking man. He was a carpenter. He was a good man. But, him spending most of the majority of his life in prison, the father skills kind of were a little rough around the edges. He was he would have been 73 now, so he spent from 18 to 40 years old in and out of prison. He was part of some of the original members of the Aryan Brotherhood right here in California. So his patience and his skill level as far as parenting, he knew how to go to work, but father skills was so. But he was a good dad, and so as he had me in sports. I was good at all kinds of sports. Anything I touched, I was good at in sports. I was angry as a kid. I was sexually abused. I was physically abused. I was mentally abused. So I held on to things. These were chains. I didn't understand at the time, but these were yokes that were put on me by the enemy. By the time I was, 10 years old, I was already I had already been smoking weed. By the time I was 12 years old, smoking weed and drinking and stuff like that, it was I thought it was cool, man. What we kind of outworld influences kind of started taking their hold on me already as a child. By the time I hit junior high, I was already smoking weed almost on a daily basis, fighting. I was already messing around with girls, and I think a lot of things that were happening as me as a little child, and I held on to these things. I think they just took effect, and little by little, it just started self-destructing. I got into trouble, man. I was fighting, stealing cars, 13, 14 years old. I got into trouble down here, and I was getting violent with people, and so my stepmother and my dad, they came up with a conclusion. Well, you got three options, Mickey. You got Teen Ranch, you got YA, and you got military school in New York City. And I was like, man, New York City, I don't want to go to New York. And my aunt, thank God, at the time, she had heard about this and the things that I was going through. And my aunt was the only one that knew Jesus, that was around me, And so she was like, I'll take Mickey on. And so I moved up with my auntie, and my auntie was like, don't be bringing that devil music up here, And I remember I came home from school one day, and I had I know all you kids got iPods and all this stuff, but CDs were that was the thing, And so I had a big old binder of CDs, and I had all the music in there, all that music. And I came home from school one day, and she found my album, and she broke every CD in there, and it was in the trash, and I was like, what's up, And she's like, I told you, don't be bringing that music up here, Well, she had me in church I don't know, 8 days a week. It seemed like, we were always in church, and I was 14, 15 years old because I was a freshman in high school. And but I would go to church and stuff like that, but smoking weed with her son, my older cousin, it was like a normal thing, drinking and smoking. I remember I'd slam like smoke liquors and just trapped like that, man. And then I got in trouble up there, man. I was getting in fights. I was in Modesto, so I was still rocking like Fresno State, I was like, I don't care. But she had planted those seeds already, And so I came back down to Fresno, and by the time I got back here, my dad was a recovering alcoholic, and by the time I got back down here, he had slipped back into his addiction, and he was a full-blown alcoholic. And I've been around pretty much every addict you could think of, and alcoholism is probably one of the nastiest things that I've ever seen in my life. And it's got a rap on our city too. So by the time I got back here, I was about 15 years old, and the dad that I knew growing up, he was gone, man. Alcohol took a hold of him, and this monster came out, man. And I remember my sister would tell me like stories, and my mom and everybody would tell me stories about this man that I never knew because he was my dad. My dad was sober, about this guy, and so when I came back, this guy was here, and we fought like all the time, man. He would call me names, and then some days it'd be like a whole different story, he'd tell me, and I got in fights and stuff like that. Whenever like I remember this one example, like these guys showed up at my house, and there was like, I don't know, a group of them, and my dad was like, this is the thing, this is how you act crazy, and when you act crazy, nobody will mess with you, you'll be safe. So as long as you're crazier than the next man, you're good to go. Just do more than what he'll do. If he pulls a knife out, pull a gun out. If he pulls out a bat, you stab him. That's how I hung my hat on day-to-day life. And this was like at 15 years old, so instead of saying, hey son, get ready for prom, it was, son, get ready for war, because you're gonna be in it. He would tell me things like, son, you need to go to prison so you can learn how to be a man. So at 15 on, that's what I thought was my life was about. Life, death, prison, being crazy. That's what it was, man. We got into a fight one day, me and my dad, and some diamond earrings came up missing. So at the time, my dad was going through a divorce, and he had a girlfriend on the side, and he had some diamond earrings for her, and at the time, his ex-wife was still around. This ain't gonna go good, And so his earrings came up missing, and I remember like it was like clear as day. Like I knew what a path of. I knew two different paths in life. I knew that it's like looking through like it's like having a little window that you can see out of like in a jail cell, but you can see like a restaurant, like you can see like there's good things out there, but like you can't get there yet. So I knew that there was a path that I wanted to take in life, and I knew it was gonna come with hard work, but I was like, I know I got this. I could work hard, and I can make something out of this still, even though the cards are stacked against me. I could do this, but I'm gonna need some help, right? Because I'm still just a kid. I'm only 15 years old. But I knew that once I started down this path, that it was gonna be death, and so it's kind of like real distinctive in my mind. I was working. I got kicked out of school. I was selling dope and stuff like that at school, and so I was working. I had a job. I was sick. I just turned 16 years old. I had a job. I was roofing. Worked for Minnick Roofing. And I had me a little 89 Chevy Blazer that I saved up and bought. I was like on my way, right? I figured by the time I'm 20, I'm gonna buy a house, and I'm gonna be good. I don't need nobody else. And so these earrings came up missing, and my dad said, I know it was you that stole from me. And so he kind of played by prison rules, man. I don't know if you guys know that rule, but you can't be stealing. And so he told me, he's like, I'm gonna have you taken care of. This is my own father, man. This is the guy who's supposed to be protecting me in my life, right? He's supposed to be like teaching me how to be a man. And but it was alcohol. Without alcohol, my dad was a great man. But with alcohol, he was a monster. And so I remember him telling me, it was like 2 in the morning. He woke me up, whooping on me. I was asleep on the couch, and he just, whooping on me. And I know it was you. I'm gonna have you taken care of. So I left. I rounded up a couple things. I bounced out, and I was, as a kid, I was good at music, and I had a drum set, and I had a bass guitar, and I had a couple of instruments. I could play instruments. I could read music and all these stuff. So I had a bass guitar and a couple other things. So what I did is I went and sold those instruments and bought a QP of some weed and some crack. And I began to sell dope at 16 years old. Because I just figured, well, this is that road. That's just what it is, man. I guess I just won't get to a house. I just won't get to, I won't get to it, man. I sold dope, hanging around in motels. I could talk myself in and out of any situation pretty much. I ran into my sister. It was my older sister, and she was crazy too, just like my dad was. And I ran into her at a hotel room, and she was telling me and her boyfriend about, hey man, this guy ripped me off. So long story short, I robbed my first dope dealer at 16 years old. And that power that I felt from that was like real addicting. It was like almost more addicting than taking drugs. You know what I mean? It was like I felt empowered. I started feeling like, man, nobody could stop me, right? I don't care how big they are, who they are, it just didn't matter to me. And I didn't care about living, so what are you gonna do, kill me? It don't matter. By the time I was 17 years old, I caught my first case. It was a burglary charge, and I was facing 6 years. And I remember the day I got arrested, I'm like, oh my God. They're like, can we call your parents? I'm like, my dad's alcoholic, my mom's on meth. Call away, go ahead, man, go for it. I'm gonna get some water. I'm sorry, guys. Get some water here. Oh man. Yeah, go ahead and call, man. I don't know if you're gonna get a hold of anybody, but go for it. So I remember sitting across the desk, and my dad answered, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna go good. I haven't seen him, like, I'm 17, so I haven't really talked to him in like, I don't know, a year and a half or so. At least a year. And I could hear him screaming at the guy, lock him up, throw away the key, I ain't going to get him, I don't care. It was like, he had already been doing time since he was 18, so it was like, that was just it, So I'm like, he was like, well, that's it, man. He hung up the phone. Anyway, court came. I looked in the back, and he's there. I'm like, oh, all right. So they were letting me out on an ankle monitor, got out on an ankle monitor, ended up beating the case. Took it to trial 3 times, beat the case. On the 3rd time, I think I signed because they were like, the way the case was, they just kept bringing it up on me. So I ended up signing a deal. I had done like a little time, whatever. I was working for my dad. I was framing. Well, I've been a carpenter all my life, so I'm framing. And my dad, he's already gone, man. And he took care of his business and stuff like that because that was important to him. But the alcohol was like, we could not get along, man. We fight on the job site, man. He show up to work and we start fighting and bickering, and then you know, I get in a fight with another worker, and he's like, man, what are you doing? So it was just I was back out in the streets, man. I was back out in the streets. I was 17. I think I moved in with my mom's, and drugs and alcohol and stuff like that, man, were just it was nothing, man. It was nothing to me. I drink on the regular, all day, every day. Drug use, marijuana. I always thought marijuana, I thought weed was just like normal. I thought weed was like part of life, you know? And so, you know, he kicked me off the job site and I stopped working for him. I had a little bit of money, so, you know, what did I do? Went and bought some dope with it. I had gifts that God had given me, but the enemy was using them, you know, to hold me in bondage. So I started selling dope, and got involved with people that I thought were like, you know, that were homies, you know, that had my back. And people, somehow they respected the way I acted, and the things that I was doing on the streets. Man, I had my hands involved with everything. Robbing dope dealers, women, dope. I'd sell anything. Anything that I could talk or manipulate my way into a conversation with, whether it be women, guns, drugs, stolen property, vehicles. It didn't matter, man. I was looking out for myself. I was like, man, I'm gonna get mine. You know, nobody else is gonna get it for me. And if I look like a victim, then they're gonna try to take it from me, and I'll die before that happens. And so that's how I lived my life, man. I was like, I didn't care, you know. I did not care. But God was already. It wasn't. I was put in some situations where I should have been dead. And at the time, I was thinking, man, I'm lucky, man. I'm lucky I didn't get shot right there. I remember this one situation where I was involved in a fist fight, and the dude that I was running with, we were robbing stores together, and I was in the street with this dude, and he came out from behind me, started dumping on the guy, pop, 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 and dude runs off, and we're at some house just doing what we do. And about 2, 3 in the morning, man, these guys come back. I'm laying in the window, like I'm laying on this bed, but my body's in the window, and the dude walks right up to the window and starts dumping on me. Doop, doop, doop. And I could literally hear glass and bullets flying by my head. And at the time, you're thinking, man, I'm lucky, but really, I was blessed because God was protecting me for something else in this life, man. I just didn't understand it or see it then, you know? So, you know, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, man. I was getting into some beefs, like, you know, I started getting a reputation for carrying a gun and robbing dope dealers and stuff like that. But once you get that reputation, man, they don't know how else to approach you but with a gun or, you know, on their toes. They're ready to shoot you down just like you're ready to shoot them down because you have that reputation built up, because you've built up this MO out there, you know what I mean? So now you got a target on your back, you know what I mean? And then you rob people that know these people, and you know these people, and you know it's easy to become trapped, man. And So I was getting some enemies that were on the same battlefield, and I got set up one night. Man. Who was supposedly a homeboy. Him and 3 other dudes and his wife set me up on a dope deal, and they all had guns, because that's how I rolled. So they knew if I was packing heat, they were gonna have to come like that. So they touched me up, and the whole time I'm thinking, oh, they're gonna shoot me, right? Because they're gonna shoot me because they kept telling me, keep your hands where I can see them, man. And then it wasn't Mick, they called me a different name, but they're like, keep your hands where we can see them, So I'm thinking they're gonna dump me down at any minute, because that's just the way it was, man. And they left after they got my money and my dope. They left, and man, I was, when things happen to the people, you're probably thinking like, man, I'm you get scared, but at the time I was mad, boy. I was so mad. I wanted blood. I refused to be a victim, so I was like, man, ooh, I'm heated. Especially this dude says he's my homeboy, so I'm like, all right. So I wanted blood, man. The older homeboys were like, hey man, you can't do nothing trick yet. You gotta wait till this cools down. People are gonna be talking. Cops are gonna be on alert. You gotta chill out on this. I'm like, all right. So in the meantime, I'm gathering other beefs with other people. I'd have shootouts like at 3, 4 in the morning, man. I'm rocking a bulletproof vest like it was just a shirt, It wasn't good, man. So time was going by, and like I was all alone. I looked around, man, and I was all alone. I didn't have my family, my mother, my brothers. They didn't want to be around me because they didn't want nothing to do with this craziness. All my homeboys, like the ones, I always hung around with older cats, but everybody was doing time, parole violations and catching cases, and that was it, man. So here I am alone, and I've got all these beefs going on. And I remember one night, man, I'm laying in my bed, and man, I don't even know how I even got to bed, because normally people would find me. I'd be going and going and going, and before I get to the door, boom, I hit the ground, because I didn't know how to sleep, I guess. You know what I mean? I was trapped like that. So I remember this one night I was laying in my bed, and I had a vest on, I had a pistol, because I was waiting. I was waiting for somebody to come kicking my door, because I didn't know if they knew I was alone or not. Normally I always have people, but I was alone, man. So I figured they know I'm alone right now, so they're gonna come and smoke me, while they can. And I remember laying down in that bed, and I'm like, see, my auntie had already planted the seed when I was a teenager, and so I knew God was there. So I said, okay, God, I'm tired, man. I'm tired. And it was like something went off in my head, like, are you sure? And I'm like, I'm tired, man. I'm tired of living like this. And so, boom, I started going to jail. I started losing everything, man. I had vehicles. The whole house was full of stolen goods. I had dope. I had guns. I had all that. And I started going to jail and started losing everything. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, I couldn't talk my way out of dinner. I mean, I was just going to jail for nothing. So I'm in and out of jail. I lose everything. But in my mind, I still have this situation that I got to take care of, I have to do this. I have to do it. My name and who I am and all this stuff, it has to be taken care of. And time has gone by to where I'm like, okay, it's time to do this. So I had a homeboy that had a homeboy that had done some things, and he had a barber shop down in Mexico. He had owned a barber shop in Mexico, so came up with a plan, man. I was gonna go pull a lick, go get a vehicle, go get some dope, go get a strap, and I was gonna go do my thing, and then I was gonna take off down to Mexico and hang out, because it worked for this dude, so I was like, it's gotta work for me, right? So I get out of jail, man. I've lost everything. I was seen on the news in a high-speed chase on camera on the curb, and when I went to down that time, my house had got robbed. So I lost everything. I mean, they knew I was in jail, so they went ahead and got everything in my house. So I'm out. I'm at ground zero. But I knew how to get back on my feet because, I'm from the streets, and I just figured, I'll just go pull a lick and I'll be good. So I went, got a robbery, robbed his house. I had a car, had dope, had the gun. Boom. 90% of this plan is in motion. I'm wanted for the robbery already. The 211, they already know I'm in. They know it's me. I get pulled over, and the cop's like, "Hey man, you tricky?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" And I go, "Hey, where's your homeboy at?" And I go, I don't know who you're talking about." And here it is, the dude that, I'm planning to go murder this man and his wife. And they're like, "Well, we caught him with a gun a couple months ago," and he says, "You're selling guns out your house. We've had him under surveillance for the last 2 months." So here I am thinking I'm going to go do this, and God's already put in process where he's going to take me. I could have been doing life in prison right now for being caught red-handed, thinking I'm real slick. So God was already, I'm in county, facing 15 years. I said, "God, man, I don't want to do 15 years, man. I know I don't deserve to even talk to you right now, but I don't want to do 15 years." I ended up beating the case. I took it to trial. I beat it. I went from doing 15 years. I told Jesus, man, I said, "Look, God, I will serve you somehow, some way, if I could just get out of this 15 years." I went from doing 15 years to 16 months in state pen. Only God could do things like that, man. They had me dead to rights. I had a tall can that I was drinking on, and I set it down in the apartment when I was done. They had me dead to rights, 15 years. Only Jesus Christ can do things like that. So I get out. I'm trying to be normal, right? I'm trying to I get done with my time. I'm trying to be normal. I want to be normal, man. I want to be a normal person. But I'm trying to do it on myself. I'm praying, but things aren't happening. It was crazy because Pastor pretty much preached my testimony, And I was praying, but things weren't happening, man. I didn't understand how things can just change for somebody else, and they haven't changed for me yet. Well, in 2013, I went to, we had somebody that passed away in our family, and we went to the funeral, and I seen my cousin there. I looked up to my cousin. I used to go to my cousin and get dope and guns off of him like he was a CVS store, like a Walmart. And I seen him, and he was on this glow. There was something different in my cousin. His tattoos were off his face. His braids were off. I'm like, "What's up with you, man? What do you want right now, right?" He's like, "Man, I found Jesus Christ." And I was like, "I got to get me some of that, man. I got to give me some of that Jesus, man." And he said, come to church with me, man, and see what it does. And so I went to church, man, and I gave myself the Lord. And ever since then, man, Pastor touched on it. He preached on it, man. When I first went, okay, good, I'm saved now. I'm good. I don't need to do anything else. And but that's just where the battle begins. You have to pick up that word, man. That word right there is alive. There's a reason why that book right there is illegal in 52 countries or more, man. Because it's alive. And it's real, and there's power in that word, man.
Yeah.
And if you think that just because you did something wrong on one day and you don't want to go back to Jesus Christ on Sunday or Tuesday, don't let the enemy build up those lies, man. We're all born of a sinful nature and we all fall short of the glory of God. But with His grace, His blessings, and His love, and His mercy on us, I'm living evidence of that right now here today. I just want to tell you guys that, and I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to share my testimony with you guys. Amen.